The brand new Vow of the Disciple raid in the Witch Queen launches 1 hour after reset on the 5th of March 2022. It kicks off with the famous Destiny 2 community spectacle that is the Day 1 raid race, so if you're pitting yourself against the best or just jumping in to experience the contest mode challenge on Day 1, you'll be needing to get your strongest and best builds together. Luckily, I've gone through and listed what I believe will be the best raid builds for each class in this guide, from the new Void 3.0 to OG favourites, which will be perfect for raiding on Day 1 and beyond. Before we crack on, please check that you are subscribed if you like any of my videos, and also hit the bell button too so you don't miss out on my next upload. The contest mode cap for Day 1 is set at 1530, with all encounters during the 24-hour contest mode period being set at a 20 power level above it. This means you'll take more damage from enemies and also dish out less damage in the process. This also means that you'll need to be optimised to survive and do enough damage to make a dent in any raid boss's health. Once the 24-hour contest mode is done, the raid level will likely be set at around 1550, which will still pose a challenge if you're under-leveled. We've got builds set up for Warlocks, Titans and Hunters, as well as mod and weapon choices, so please use the timestamps below to whiz around as you wish. Also, share this with your clanmates or raid buddies if you find this helpful. Starting off with the Warlocks, and well, I can only start with the base setup of my favourite Void 3.0 build. I'll be diving into the ins and outs of this specific setup in a future video, but basically, it's S tier. Aspects wise, use both the Chaos Accelerant and Child of the Old Gods. Fragments, we've got the Echoes of Expulsion, Reprisal and Undermining. Use the Vortex Grenade for its big suck, and we're also using the Empowering Rift. You might think that's crazy for contest mode content, but Second Filament totally negates it. Granting Devour on casting Empowering Rift will mean that not only will further kills heal you, but the Old Gods aspect and your Vortex Grenades will weaken targets, making them take 15% more damage on top of your 20% empowered weapons. Kills with both the Old Gods and Devour will grant Rift and Grenade energy respectively too. It's perfect for survivability, and if you're a Warlock main, you should honestly be considering it. As for alternative options, you absolutely can't go wrong with the Well of Radiance setup using the Phoenix Protocol exotic. The survivability of both the healing grenades and the Benevolent Dawn ability for fast ability cooldowns will go a long way to helping your team. My final Warlock option will be a tanky Shadebinder setup. Aspects, you'll want the Glacier Harvest and Bleak Watcher, with the following fragments: the Whispers of Rending, Rime, Fissures and Chains. Paired with the Glacier Grenade, you'll be dealing increased damage to frozen targets and crystals, with both a damage resistance and overshield on top. Using the new Osteomancy gloves will get you 2 stasis grenades and potentially 2 Bleak Watcher turrets, which will go a long way to shutting down enemies in a raid encounter. Even the Stag Exotic or the Mantle of Battle Harmony can be viable, especially with a ton of the new excellent stasis headstone weapons available. Hunters are next up, and we're straight into a Void 3.0 setup using the Mobius Quiver Super. Invisibility is probably the best way to go, along with the Omnioculus exotic for rapid ability cooldowns. Aspects wise, Trapper's Ambush and the Stylish Executioner are the best ones in my opinion to build into for max invisibility and weaken effects. Echo of Provision, Persistence and Undermining all benefit the setup too. Again, chuck on the Vortex Grenade and Gambler's Dodge and you'll be able to survive most encounters using any and all of your abilities, plus the Mobius Super deals huge damage after it's changed to 2 sets of free arrows. As long as you play around the team play strengths of Omnioculus, you'll help to keep your grateful teammates alive too. Hunters don't have too many other options, but Stasis is still really strong in PvE content and is always massively underrated. A Revenant Hunter using Star Eater scales will absolutely destroy large areas of enemies and is still one of my favourite builds. The Touch of Winter aspect and Grim Harvest set you up perfectly to use 5 fragments, with the Durance, Impetus, Chains, Rime and Torment being my picks. This will basically allow you to use near infinite melees and grenades to slow and freeze enemies, particularly potent with the Melee Wellmaker mod. The Silence and Squall Super also got a buff making it track bosses better, and it's great for squeaky bum time moments too. Titans are taking the next bit, and yes, again, Void 3.0 is king here, especially with the buff to the Ward of Dawn super activation time and it now being one of the fastest charging supers. Bastion and Offensive Bulwark are going to provide you and teammates with overshields consistently, as well as rapid grenade cooldowns. Paired with the echoes of Expulsion, Persistence and Undermining can make for an excellent base build. Surprisingly, Mark of the Quiet One is my slept on exotic pick, or even Heart of Inmost Light to boost your ability cooldown time. Thunder Crash is also viable, especially with the Falling Star exotic for huge damage output, but probably not as strong as its Void and Stasis options. Speaking of Stasis, Behemoths are underrated, but utilising their ability to create mass cover through the Glacier Grenades and some good neutral game movement. Cryoclasm and Diamond Lance are my aspect picks, along with the whispers of Fissures, Chains, Shards and Rending. Using a Stasis primary with Headstone will create tons of Diamond Lances to help freeze larger areas of ads, and pair it with the Precious Scars exotic helmet and you'll get unlimited healing too. Now if you want some advanced mod options to pair with any of the builds we've gone through, this one will set you up to not only survive, but also dish out boosted damage on a regular basis. I'd look at leaning into an Elemental Well setup, and if you can convince your teammates to run some too, I know for a fact that a confident team running through encounters can and will be spamming abilities left, right and centre, destroying all enemies with some of these powerful Elemental Well combinations. Elemental Armaments is probably going to be your best bet to create them consistently, unless you're running a very specific grenade or melee centric build where the Ordnance or Melee Wellmaker mods will work wonders. Font of Might is flat out the best neutral game damage buff available, up at 25%. The combination of Reaping Wellmaker and the Well of Tenacity are a top tier setup regardless of your subclass, as it now grants a 50% damage resistance when it's active after collecting a Void Well. Finally, Seeking Wells will let any of the wells track towards you. The Thermo-Shock Plating mod from the artifact is a great pick, and either the Concussive Dampener or Sniper Resist will grant you a good incoming damage reduction on top. As for artifact mods, any of the mods in the final column, especially ones that increase your suppression effects, could be game changing in a day 1 raid. Keep in mind that everyone can have the suppression grenade as standard, making it a viable choice. So that's the mods and the main builds for each class, but what weapons should you be considering? First and foremost, as all exotic primaries got a 40% buff to red bars, these will likely be pivotal in day 1 raiding. However, some are standout options due to their dual use of both being great at ad clear and backup for dealing boss damage. Outbreak Perfected and its nanites just shred through ads at the best of times, but they also stack to deal good damage, especially as a primary weapon on yellow bars and bosses. Plus, you can use the Unstoppable Pulse Rifle mod this season to deal with any pesky champions in the raid. Next is the Dead Man's Tail, and more specifically a roll with Vorpal weapon. Vorpal got a change recently, so it deals 20% bonus damage to bosses on primary weapons, and add to that the exotic buff, it's going to be a great all-rounder and will also deal with barrier champions too. As for damage output, slug shotguns could still be excellent for high burst DPS in damage phases, and wave frame grenade launchers including a new explosive personality, and the exotic Dead Messenger will also be great for ad clear. I think though that for pure damage output, Galahorn is my pick. It's just too damn good. However though, maybe an encounter will require more precise damage, which then brings Sleeper Simulant and even the Whisper of the Worm into play. I feel like I've gone to the far end of the proverbial, but we've barely scratched the surface in terms of build crafting and what you could set up for the day 1 raid experience. I do hope that this guide helped you out, and if it did, I really think that you need to watch this build crafting guide I just uploaded. Shaping weapons, deep sight resonance and weapon patterns are all covered in a clear cut, easy to follow way that will get you up to speed in no time. Click the link on your screen right now.